All right, what's up, everybody? We're back. We're back. What's up, y'all? Man, we're so excited to be back with y'all. Welcome to Callings and Careers. Welcome to Callings and Careers, where we help you discover your calling and develop your career. Discover your
Mhm.
calling and develop your career. I'm Christopher Harris, and that is
Hey there, I'm Jessica Canty.
and together, we are co hosts to this incredible conversation known as Callings and Careers. And we're so honored. Y'all, listen, go grab your friends, text somebody, share this, post this, direct message this, send a pigeon out and tell your friends that Christopher and Jessica are live on Callings and Careers today. Man, what a privilege.
Really
Jessica, you doing all right?
doing wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The weather is warming up where I am, so I'm enjoying all of the spring and the newness and
Yeah.
just taking it all in. Not so much on the pollen side, but loving the warmer weather.
That's funny because when we started this show, this podcast, uh, you were in winter season.
So you see, I have to say I'm blessed, right? Right. I can't complain about every season. Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely warming up out here.
yeah. So
Yeah.
for those of you that are watching, we now I think I said I was going to do this the last time. I didn't go back and do it, but I think this is like episode 7 or 8 or something like that. We gotta start. I got to start doing a better job of keeping track. We're busy creating content and having these discussions, and I haven't been keeping track on the number, but it's been good, y'all. And thank you so much for those of you that have been watching, and even I've gotten a few messages from people who say I go back and I watch the replay, and it's just so good, and all of that. Jessica, tell everybody who you are a little bit and how they can find you, so that they'll have some context of where you and I both are coming from as we lead this conversation together.
Hey there, I'm Jessica Canty. I am your life and career strategist. I have a passion for helping melanin millennial moms who want high achieving careers. And so I support them with career path planning, resume and interview refinement, and reputation revitalization. I love talking about all things career. And I think this is a really sweet spot for those who have a calling on their life, who want Christ-centered careers, and even those who are like, what is this? I'm just curious. What does it mean to have a Christ-centered career? I love talking about that, about how we can marry the two together, because surely I can't go a day without Christ in my life. And so this career space, whether you're a Christ girl like me, or you just want to make sure your career is all together, you are definitely in the right space.
I love it. I love it. And y'all, Jessica is crushing it and killing it. All of that stuff that she just talked about that she's doing. Most importantly, y'all, she's helping to change lives, and she's a mother as well herself, and making things happen there at home. So, yeah, man, I'm glad to be connected with you, Jessica. This is just a blessing and a privilege. Her website is right there. So if you need some career coaching or whatever that may look like, go check her out, and see some of the services that she's providing and that she's offering. And of course, I'm Christopher Harris, Christopher J. Harris to be exact. And that's how you can find me there, ChristopherJHarris.com. And I'm a pastor, but also a business leader, business owner, the founder and CEO for diversechurchjobs.com, where we help people of color in ministry find incredible ministry opportunities. And so we're committed to not just helping candidates find the right jobs, but we're helping candidates, what we said earlier when we started this conversation and when we went live today, to help you discover your calling and develop in your career. So listen, let's jump into it, Jessica. Last conversation we had 2 weeks ago, we started part one of this notion, this conversation called quietly quitting. Quietly quitting. All right, so let's define what that is for everybody. We defined it before. We're just going to kind of recap really fast where we went with that discussion, so that they'll be brought up to speed with what we're going to go today, because today is part two of that discussion about quietly quitting. And we know, I just saw an email. I started to send this to you, Jessica. Just saw not an email, but a news report yesterday that the Great Recession is still kicking in high gear. That it is not gone away. So this is right on time, I think, for a lot of people. So what is quietly quitting? What is quietly quitting?
It's so interesting that you talked a little bit about the Great Recession, because I think with the Great Recession and quietly quitting, I think they're relatives. They're like first cousins, the Great Recession
What's
and
up,
quietly.
cuz?
They're like first cousins because what's happened, quiet quitting is has been around long before the Great Recession. I mean,
Mm,
excuse me, the Great Resignation. And so it's been highlighted because of the Great Resignation. But what's happening is that people are doing the bare minimum at work. They're doing just enough to get by. No one, the person who's experiencing this quiet quitting has three particular distinct characteristics that we'll kind of give a little review around. And unfortunately, they've lost their purpose, they lost their drive, and it's impacting their work in their career brand. And so, if you are that person and you listen to the last episode, you definitely want to hear what are some of the dangers and what are some of the solutions what we're going to talk about today. But if you didn't catch that last episode, please, please, please grab a pen, grab a paper, grab a buddy, a pal, and go back and listen to that episode so that this episode can be even more of a ring true for you. Because like every conversation on this podcast, it's truly a college course, a crash course. In an hour, you get collegiate level information. So definitely want to go back and listen to that.
yeah, it's like a master class every single time we're on
Absolutely.
here.
Absolutely.
So we covered 3 signs last time that you may be quietly quitting. So I'm gonna just kind of walk through those really fast. So the first sign is that you hate Monday mornings. If you have quietly quitted, did I say that right?
I don't know if your English teacher would be okay with it. I'm okay with it, but I'm a social worker.
Oh, the
Uh-huh.
great debate now. If you have quietly quit,
Uh-huh.
that sounds better.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have quitted quietly,
Mm-hmm.
you hate Monday mornings. Like you dread having to start your week and you're counting down the clock, which leads to sign number 3, which is you are like your model of work and how you engage with your work is a TGIF model. I can't wait until Friday hits. Da 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 da. And of course, we know that that's dangerous. And then finally, sign number 3 is that you're counting the clock. So you go to work and your whole goal is to see how fast the clock is going to move so that you can clock out and then go do something that's fun or something that you enjoy doing. So those are sort of 3 signs that we covered the last time. So this whole notion of quietly quitting it's a real deal. It's a situation. And so when we have these conversations, Jessica, we've repeated this multiple times, but I think the goal is for us to share with people these career truths, these career tools from the lens of faith as well, because
Mm-hmm.
as faith people, we are committed to doing it differently. We're committed to operating differently. And so, to the average person that's not a faith-filled, faith-focused, spirit-led person, they would say, well, I still show up. What's the big deal with me quietly quitting? But for the believers, our standard is a lot higher and a lot different. So let's unpack, because we got a lot to unpack today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's jump into it. So we got 3 dangers and 3 solutions that we're going to give you today. Jessica's going to help kind of drive this. So what's the first one, Jessica? And I don't know if you want to say anything first before we start with the points.
So on our last episode, the last conversation we had about quiet quitting, we started to kind of touch on the fact of why it's important to identify that you're quiet quitting. So if after you listen to that episode, you're like, okay, well, Jessica, okay, Christopher, like that's me, but what do I do about it? That's a part of the reason why we're having this conversation now. It's important in order to chart the path forward to be very clear on how dangerous it is. Because a part of the reason people quiet quit is because it feels safe. So a lot of times people get comfortable in their job and it's like you said, I'm showing up, right? I'm showing up, I'm on time. Ignore the fact that I'm still in company paper. Ignore the fact that I stole the company stapler or I'm printing off my kid's project at work. Of course, nobody here does that. Or they're stealing time because your lunch break was supposed to be over for an hour, but you're pushing 2 hours at this point. And so a lot of times people stay in that space because they don't see it, there's a problem. And so here's where my clinical brain kicks in. One of the things that when I'm working with a client that we talk about is the change cycle. And so the change cycle says that we have to make sure that we identify the problem and then want to do something about it. So if you
Mm,
listen to the last episode and you were like, okay, there's a problem, the next step is identifying that you want to do something about it. And
wow.
in order for you want to do something about it, you've got to know that there's a need for it. Study any change management book, they will tell you you've got to create the need for it. And so today we're going to talk about why you need to change, because it's dangerous to quiet quit. We
Mm,
could say it lightheartedly. We joked about it in the last episode, but there's some dangers to quiet quitting. And so this isn't, again, another internal work. We're going to talk about this internal work that you're going to have to do. We're going to talk a little bit about some practical tips on the external work you can do to change your internal. But I want to
mm.
be very clear that this is why we're talking about these dangers. There's a lot of dangers, but I'm going to talk about these three major dangers that I've seen over and over again when I've coached clients.
That's good.
So
That's good.
let's jump in there. So the
All right.
first danger to quiet quitting is skill atrophy. Skill atrophy. Mm-hmm,
Wow.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Jessica coming out the gate swinging, y'all. Skill atrophy.
Yeah, because you're used to the monotony and the minutia of dotting I's, crossing T's, coming to work, doing the same thing. You brew your coffee the same way. You say hi to Sam on the same route to your desk. And unfortunately, you don't realize that just like any other muscle in our body, if you don't use it, you lose it. So all the time that you're sitting around either counting the clock or waiting till Friday or hating Monday mornings, all those skills that you brought to the table are slowly starting to atrophy. They're slowly starting to die away. They're
Yeah.
being pruned away from your body because, again, your brain is saying, well, we're not using this, so let's toss that. So let's get
Wow.
this out of the way, in terms of that. And this is another reason it's important, especially during the Great Resignation, that you recognize the danger of skill atrophy, because companies are accustomed to people leaving. So they're making it easier for you to leave too. Because and I know the flip side too, there's a lot of positions that are open, but they know they'll get somebody who's hungry for the position. So skill atrophy is a real thing. And you're wondering why, I used to be able to do that. Oh, that was the old way we did it. You can become accustomed to doing something inappropriately or not according to policy, not according to the program, because it felt good to you. And then you realize, wait a minute, why is everybody else getting promoted around me? Wait a minute,
Wow.
why is it that everyone else is getting getting the office space? I'm still in this little cubicle space. Whatever that may look like in your space, wherever you are in your career cycle, skill atrophy is a real thing. Absolutely. That's the first danger.
I'm sitting here thinking about, so those that don't know what atrophy is like, if you think about like your muscles, so muscles that you don't use, they go through atrophy. That is, they get weaker and smaller and, all those kinds of things. And so as you were talking about this, Jessica, I couldn't help but think about the fact of how counterintuitive it is, I believe, for us to even let our skills sort of die away, because I think from a creation standpoint, God made us to constantly be growing and evolving and and developing. So when we do the opposite of that, we're actually going against maybe the very nature that God gave us. Like I guess to say it this way, it seems like to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It seems like to me that there ought to be an unsettling and an aggravation that a person has if they are going through skill atrophy right now. You ought to feel uncomfortable, like I'm missing out.
Absolutely. You ought to, I think, but that's the reason why it is a danger, because you can get comfortable not using it. Ask anybody who gained the quarantine 15 or those pandemic pounds. They didn't do it in just one day, okay? Hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but they didn't do it in just one day. It was just one meal. Or this is not going, it's not going to hurt me too much to do this. It's not going, if I don't go to the gym, I'll be all right, right? Then you look up and you're wondering why your pants are uncomfortable. So yes, the idea is uncomfortable, and you're wondering why your clothes are not fitting you properly, because day by day, those skills were eroding. And so day by day, we should be working towards not just maintaining those skills, but enhancing those skills. And so, and I'll talk a little about that in the solution to the skill atrophy. But you're right, you should feel it. Unfortunately, it's like what do they say when you put a lobster? It's a slow boil. It's a slow boil.
Mm.
And before you know it, you're it shows up as a sign of, like we were talking about, clocking, counting the clock, or TGIF, and not like, oh my goodness, this is impacting my career. So typically it doesn't hit you like that until you get called into your boss's office and they're like, don't wait till the performance evaluation to realize that you have had atrophy in your skills.
That's so good. And so then what's the solution then for skill atrophy?
The solution for skill atrophy is to set a goal. You have to set a goal. Over and over again, when I review resumes, one of the things that I've noticed is that people are pulling things from 3-4 years ago and putting it on their resume, which put in its proper place is excellent, because that means that you've had a pattern of excellence and you know what you're doing. But often people don't realize you're supposed to update your resume every 6 months. Whether or not you're looking for a job or not, every 6 months you should be updating your resume, which means what?
Really?
You have to.
Why?
One, because of the job market. You should never get complacent in your job market.
Okay.
Two, because of skill atrophy. Because if you don't set a goal of updating your resume every 6 months, you'll get comfortable. And I'll raise my hand, somebody else has too. It's real easy to get comfortable in your job, because you go through the first day jitters and you finally learn how to do your job and you like, I just want to feel settled. But you never want to get complacent. It's the difference between settled and complacent. And unfortunately, this is why people struggle when it's time to look for a new opportunity, or when it's time to raise your hand and say, it's time, you owe me a raise, or I deserve a promotion. Why? You have no data to prove it. And so that is why every 6 months you're supposed to update your resume. But if you don't have a plan, then it's not going to get updated. So we're at the 5th month of the year. Next month, you should be updating your resume. Come December, it should be updated again. But if you've done nothing, again, if you're just looking at the clock, if you're like, Jessica, it's 2 days away from Friday, then it's not going to happen. You need to make sure that you're doing something. Set a goal. So what does that mean? Your goal might mean to ensure that you are building your career executive board. Your goal might be go and look at some job descriptions that are similar to the job descriptions you already have. And what are they doing?
Hold on. Time out. Okay. What is a career executive board?
You know what? We're going to have to do an episode and break that one down.
Okay.
Because we kind of hinted on around it, but a career executive board is your own personal advisory board that's sharing wisdom to push your career forward. And the short and sweet of it is there's 4 people on that board. It's your role model, your mentor, your coach, and your sponsor. There is no company.
We'll do the episode. That's so much. That's 2 episodes right there.
It might be 4. We might have to break down how to get them, what to look for. I'm telling you, that's some good stuff right there. If you don't know it already, give me it's a master class. Grab a pen and paper and a pal, because you're going to get some good stuff out of these conversations.
Yeah. So, so you're like, so you mentioned, get an executive board. You mentioned some other stuff. What's some other goals that people probably should be thinking about that they generally don't think about?
You need to start working on genuine connections. A lot of times people call it networking or net connecting. I like net connecting a little bit better. Are you working on your value proposition, or what's commonly known as your elevator pitch? I like to call it your power script. So are you clear on what makes you unique? And have you done anything to increase your proficiency in that uniqueness? So I know, I absolutely love human behavior. And so even in my free time, my family kind of pokes fun at me, but even in my free time, I'm watching documentaries on human behavior from all different aspects of life. I'm reading or listening to a book on human behavior. So I'm not just focused on the one population I'm working with, which I love working with melanin millennial moms, but I've got to know about how other human behavior is impacting those clients. So when I communicate with my clients, I get it on a different level. I know what it means, what that wage gap means on a different level. I know what it means to try to balance the budget and laundry on a different perspective, because I know how much it costs to go to the store. So what are you doing to make your uniqueness even more proficient and even more valuable? But that's setting a goal in a nutshell. And, kind of going back to that career executive board, if you don't know what the goal should be, you need a career executive board, because they're going to be the ones that help you decide what those goals should be.
That's so good. So this first problem, the first danger of quiet quitting is really about skill atrophy and keeping yourself fresh, right? No stale bread. We don't want any stale bread.
No, sir.
Right?
No,
And
sir.
the solution is set a goal. All right. What's
Mhm.
danger number 2? What's danger number 2?
So danger number 2 is click affiliation. Click affiliation. Listen, I taught a whole class on the difference between click and teaming in the workspace. You're really vulnerable to becoming a member of a clique if you've been in a job for a while, or if you've been in a space for a while.
Really?
This is even in the body of Christ. Shh, don't tell nobody. It's cliques in church too. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're in a space where people have like-minded experiences, or they have like-minded goals. You all are facing similar challenges. So it's really easy to fall into the trap of a clique if you're not cognizant of the difference between cliques and teams. So quiet quitting makes you more vulnerable to clique affiliation, because you're so right. Well, girl, what you doing on the weekend? Because you're looking forward to the weekend. I can't wait to get off this job. You're attracting people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, in terms of, oh, you know what? Oh, I don't know what she's talking about. I'm on my break, so I'm gonna do what I want to do. Or if you're that person who hates Monday mornings, you're consistently complaining with other people, and it makes you more vulnerable to gossip. Makes you more vulnerable to being a part of that group of people who always sits in the corner, who knows all the tea, as the children say, but they're not being sought after for promotions or project leads, because you are, just by affiliation, blocking some of your blessings. It might not be you talking about people. It might not be you, talking about somebody's husband or somebody's personal life, but by association, you are now blocking your blessings.
Let me ask you this, Jessica. Are cliques avoidable? Like, are you able to avoid cliques in the workspace? Because you just said the longer you work somewhere, the more likely it is for you to have a clique. So are cliques avoidable, and are all cliques bad?
So yes, cliques are avoidable with intentionality. There's the asterisk, with intentionality. You've got to know the difference between a clique and a team. Cliques are more exclusive. It's like us four and no more. Cliques are always looking for ways to keep other people out, as opposed to bringing people in. Cliques tend to be homogenous groups, so everybody looks alike, as opposed to it being diverse. Teams want to be diverse. Teams look for ways to include people. So here's a way, like, okay, it's always just the three of y'all to go get coffee. You walk past somebody else's desk and you don't stop to say, hey, you want to go grab a cup of coffee with us? If you find yourself talking about people rather than solutions, be careful, because you might be in a clique mentality. So are they avoidable? Absolutely. But they have to be with intentionality in order to avoid them.
There's a verse, Proverbs 18:24, that says, he that wants friends must show himself friendly.
Oh, that last part. But you got to be friendly, right? You got to be friendly. Yeah, you can't be like, you can't be the mean girls, of church. And that's, that's why I said it. And I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but it's important for the body of Christ to know that as well, because, this is the section we sit in, because I know nobody else's church, but I've been to a church or two where it's like, I get the strange look. Oh, I must have sat in somebody's seat. I didn't realize this was a reserved section. There was no sign. Or, oh no, this is the mom clique over here. Oh, this is the entrepreneur clique over there. So even in the body of Christ, we can do that. Ask yourself, does everybody in this group look like me? There are some safety in that, because you want to know, our brains are wired to want to have connection and, to want to know that you're related to somebody else. However, that's where biases and blind spots sleep in. So you want to be
biases and blind spots. Come on.
So you want to be very, very careful with that clique mentality.
Yeah. That's so good. And I know we got to move on to the next thing, but I think what's so powerful about this whole clique affiliation thing is I don't even think that people realize that when you are a part of certain cliques, it actually limits your career progress. It can, because the scripture, again, there's a principle that scripture lays out about, bad company corrupts good manners. So you're connecting with people that socially y'all may get along, but professionally it may be damaging. And I think you gotta make some decisions, in terms of where you draw those lines, and that kind of thing. So this is the danger. The danger is clique affiliation. What's the solution to that?
So the solution for that is to get honest feedback. You want to get
Huh.
honest
Huh.
feedback. And this
Hmm.
is one you got to make sure you put on the padding because it might hurt your feelings. You have to be able to seek out honest feedback. So in a click, you're going to get a whole lot of yes, sirs or yes, ma'ams.
Yeah.
So those people are like, yeah, girl, you look good. Yeah, that, oh, yeah, you did a good job on that. And so it keeps you in that mentality and it keeps you in that complacent because you're always going to get a yes from that group. And that can be very confusing between a click and a cheer squad. That's something different, what your executive board should be. Because your executive board is going to tell you, no, you might want to go back and consider this. I've had a couple of times where someone has told me that outfit is not appropriate for this space, that go back and make this correction. This does not present you in the way that you want to be presented. And it was some ouches because I thought I was doing good. But I realized that when I did that, it kind of warded off all those clicks because it's like the click is like everybody looks the same.
Wow.
Everybody's doing the same. And so, if you want to remain the same, because there is safety in feeling the same, but if you're ready for something different, you have to be like, at my church, we say it's distinctively different. And you won't be if you don't get that honest feedback. And honest feedback typically doesn't say again.
Distinctively different.
Absolutely. Distinctively different. Sometimes honest feedback, I'm going to be very careful because I want to be very clear for those. This is the mental health side of me is kicking in. It's a difference between honest feedback and gaslighting and toxic talk, if you will. So there's a difference between the two. And if you need help determining that, that's where you get the help from your executive board or get help from a therapist.
And you know what else about that too? This might be part of that mental health side too, Jessica, that I've learned. So let me flip to the other side of the table for a moment on this honest feedback thing and talk to the people who feel an inclination to offer feedback to people and say that you really have to be given permission to give people feedback. Like just because you may be in a certain position, just because you may have experience or, whatever that list may look like, whatever that checklist may look like, you really have to earn the right to get into people's business and step on toes. You have to earn that right, and that's even with the most intimate relationships. We can talk more about that later, but I think, even with family, husbands and wives, I think after your children get to a certain age, even because you move from being the provider to now being a coach in so many ways. So you really have to take a posture to say, how do I establish enough credibility that this person will be open to my feedback?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the credibility is in your heart condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Adam Grant said this. Adam Grant said this. He's a professor and also a podcast host and an author. He said many people fail to benefit from constructive feedback because they overreact and undercorrect. When a helpful suggestion feels like a big threat to your ego, you only make a small change to your habits. The best way to learn is to overcorrect. Discomfort is a sign of growth.
Ooh. Mic drop. Yeah. Because quiet quitting is comfortable. So even you saying this, like, you got to overcorrect. And I like the idea of that too, So someone, when I was told about my wardrobe, I went in and looked at, I was only told about one outfit, but I went in and looked at all the outfits. So if we're talking about one part of your behavior, go in and look at everything. Go in and do that forensic interview or, dissection of your job or how you're presenting your career brand.
So let's play this out for a second. And then I know we got to get to the next point. Time is flying by. But let's just say, Jessica, that this person came to you, said what they said about your outfit. Let's just say that you then got offended. You didn't receive what they said. Where do you think the rest of this plays out? What does this look like in terms of things that we see in the workplace and other spaces and all of that?
A lot of times, if the person has said something to you in a discreet way and you can tell they're trying to give you personal wisdom and you ignore it, what happens is you'll get publicly shamed. So I've learned that God often says stuff to us in a quiet fashion. And then when you don't listen, it's said really, really loudly, and it often hurts. So for me, like I've seen it in the workspace where people like, if I say something, hey, you got something in your nose, then you go in front of a meeting, you can ignore me if you want to, but then you're gonna get that public shame. So for me, like if you, because it does take a good heart condition to be able to give someone feedback, but sit back and look and see what is the outcome of me following this advice, and am I okay if I don't get that outcome? So if I follow this advice and I think that it might lead to a promotion, it might lead to me being presented better, okay, I'll follow it. It's uncomfortable. I'll have to spend some money, spend some time, spend some energy, but am I okay with not living with that outcome? No, and I want to make sure that I have enough to pay the bills and more. So I'm going to do and follow that advice. But more often than not, when people don't take that personal and it is heartfelt advice, they get public shame. So it's up to you.
My wife often tells this story about, and I guess this really is relevant for women, where she talks about, she had a friend they went to the restroom together. They were leaving the bathroom, and the friend didn't realize that she had toilet paper hanging from her dress.
Uh-huh.
So my wife tells her this, but the friend ignores. And so the conversation then becomes, well, okay, you want to ignore it. I ain't the one with the toilet paper hanging out my backside.
That's a true friend. That's a true friend that will tell you that,
Come on, man. Like, tell me I got something in my teeth. I had lunch. Tell me I got something hanging from my nose, okay? Do not have me out here looking bad.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because, I've encountered people who, A, don't want you to tell them anything, but also B, want to act like they got it together. Nobody has it together all the time. Nobody. All right. I guess that's my soapbox for today.
It's true though. I don't know if maybe the filters on social media make us think that everybody has it all together, but that's filters and lighting to make you think that people have it all together. Nobody does.
By the way, this is a total aside. I tried a lot of different filters at points, and none of them help me. I just don't use filters at all because I'm like, that don't look right. That don't look natural.
Those filters are sorcery. I learned about them like a year or so ago. I was like, this is a whole other person. This is a whole lie. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. So the first danger is skill atrophy. And the solution to that is set a goal. The second danger is click affiliation. And the solution to that is get honest feedback. All right. What's the third danger of quiet quitting?
So the third danger is service and safety interruption. Service and safety interruption. So what happens when you are watching the clock, you're not watching for safety. When you are living for the weekend, you are not delivering the best service. And so this is a danger because it can literally put people in jeopardy of their physical safety, their emotional safety. It could put you in jeopardy for not being able to fulfill your job or to keep your job. And so the question becomes, are you okay with watching the clock and collecting a check, knowing that there's a danger of someone being hurt or knowing that the service is not going to be giving it the highest level of excellence? Because this is what happens with quiet quitting. When you're busy looking for the weekend, hating Monday morning, watching the clock, you're not really giving the services and safety measures that need to be put into place. So especially, for all of my first responders, this better than anyone, that they're over and over again going to train you in what to look for, how to be observant. But one of the things that doctors have come up with is that if we don't get enough sleep, it's like driving drunk and when you're driving drowsy. Why? Because now you're not able to assess for safety. You're not able to assess for what dangers are coming up. And it's the same thing in the workspace, not only for your own skills, but for your own career. So now you're not able to look on the horizon. Okay, listen, this whole department just got demolished. So, but if I'm busy looking at the clock, I'm not thinking about how do I position myself so I don't lose my job. If you're thinking about how to get a promotion, this is a sweet spot for you. Even though it's a danger, the sweet spot for you is if you're already looking at how the company can make more money or can gain more influence, or can be connected to more opportunity, then you can protect yourself against this particular danger. So I guess as a solution in the danger is that when we're consistently looking at how do we more effectively provide a service, how do we more effectively get things done, and it's safe to our bank account, safe to our human resources, safe to the brand that we're trying to develop, then we can kind of avoid this particular danger. But I'm telling you, if you are busy, trying to make sure I count down from the moment I get in the office to the moment I get out, somebody somewhere it's a stack of paper that somebody's waiting on you to go to review. Someone's life is on pause because you're not doing your work.
Yeah, I think too. You got your two S's there, service and safety. So I was thinking about, okay, what's another S? You should not have the level of sanity that you should have when you are taking advantage of the clock. In other words, where you're collecting the money without the actual return on the investment for the employee. That's not an integrous move. It's not a move of integrity, And I think that has to be considered as well. So then if that's the danger, if quiet quitting, one of the dangers is service and safety interruption, then what's the solution, Jessica?
So the final solution is to get additional training. Now, I'm saying this with intentionality and very carefully because when I talk about get additional training, I'm not talking about the person who's consistently going back to school but never applies anything that they learned in school. I'm talking about getting those specific things to your level of what's not working well for you. So you got to go back, and this is another reason why we kind of did it in order. So if you are looking at the fact that, like, the first solution we talked about, which is to set a goal, and if your goal is to get promoted, your goal is to get another level of licensure, whatever that looks like, you want to connect or align your training with those goals. First, I have to set the goal and then get the training. Because a lot of times people will do, I'm going to sit in this class because I saw on Instagram you can make $5,000 in your sleep. Okay, but what's the goal with this? That's how people get taken advantage of. So be very careful about it. Be very clear about it. So for instance, if you realize, okay, Jessica, listen, I'm a part of a clique. So I need to get some additional training on how to be self-confident and not need external validation.
Wow.
I may need to get some, and that's therapy. I'm biased though. I need to know because I'm getting all of my validation from this clique as opposed to the internal validation. That might be your training. Therapy might be your training. It might be a creative outlet, because a lot of times what happens is that we lose our spark. And what I've noticed is that even in some of my interests, some kind of way God speaks to me and shows me how this is a part of the passion work I'm supposed to do. So I'm in there hitting the bag and kickboxing, and he's talking to me about social work. I'm like, God, I'm in here trying to do my jab cross, and you in here talking about human development. So that's an additional form of training for me. That's that mental and physical training for me that helps me to show up even better. So be very clear on the how it's tailored to you. So you want to get some of that tailored training for you.
And I think this is important to say, Jessica, training doesn't have to be expensive, right? You don't have to break the bank and, go like doctoral level work to get accurate training. I mean, start where you are and you build yourself up to those higher levels of training, that requires an investment and that kind of thing. One of the best tools that you could use for training that's free is YouTube and Google. YouTube and Google. Subscriptions to magazines, subscriptions to podcasts, right? People find an author, find a person that is doing deep work in a particular space and read everything they got. Exhaust what they put out before you move on to the next thing and see what happens as you unpack, because you're learning from their years of experience, their years of research, and all the things that go along with that. So I think that whole idea of training is really, really powerful and cannot be overstated. So,
absolutely. And when you were talking about free things, I was like, listen, you got training in this podcast. You got several episodes. Go back. I'm telling you.
If you want to send a donation, we're not going to turn it down.
Shameless plug, but absolutely.
Oh, ain't no shame.
You absolutely want to do that. Invest in that way. And again, even the books. Libraries are free for a reason. So there's a lot of information in there. And I like the idea. I want to kind of highlight what you said. Exhausted. Like, stop being the people who click like and click share on a thing, but never follow through. There's so many people who like, oh, this was a good quote. Yeah, but what'd you do with the quote? Oh, you know what? I listened to this talk. But yeah, but what did you do with the talk? So you got to dig in. Yeah.
I I was having a conversation with somebody a couple months ago, and this is probably not a great example because it's probably too small, but they had a journal like this. It was really thick. Man, it had all these quotes and, they had different color markers and highlighters and, all this kind of stuff. And I just asked them a question. I said, have you applied 50% of the quotes you've written down? And it dawned on me, Jessica, and probably the same for me. I don't know if this is the case for you. I won't speak for you. But oftentimes we are educated beyond our obedience.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Absolutely. And I'm seeing that on every aspect of life. Every aspect of life. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, the time always flies by.
It does.
It always flies by. Hey, as an aside from quietly quitting. So y'all go back, y'all take the notes. This is part 1. This is part 2. Go back, take the notes, listen to it, glean from it, grow from it. So Jessica, what have you been watching lately? What show have you been watching? How have you been relaxing?
2 different things, because some of the shows I watch, I realize is like me still working, but my sister and we suggest different things of cinema and talk about it. And there's I guess you could say it's a series called The Path, I believe it is, on Hulu. And it really talks about this cult-like behavior. And again, we talked about click affiliation and like what makes people vulnerable to clicks, and how do we maneuver around, and why do we need external validation versus internal validation. And so it's been an interesting conversation between she and I. I should mention that we're both mental health practitioners, but it's an interesting piece to watch. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other shows?
No, right now I'm just digging into that one, because outside of that, I'll be listening to a book or, exercising, those other things for self-care.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I've been catching up on New Amsterdam.
I don't think I've heard of that. Jaw drop.
What?
I'm telling you, I'm so busy. Listen, I'm not busy. Let me be careful about that word. But I really love watching. Like, I can watch documentaries all day, every day. If you look at my YouTube right now, it's like somebody sharing their life story. And so I'm like, I have to try to add some variety. So I'm so glad you're telling me something else to watch. New Amsterdam.
I need everybody to stretch your hands to the screens. We're going to pray for my co-host today.
Add some variety, Lord. Add some variety.
In Jesus' name. No, this is good. All right, y'all. Listen, I want you to go hit the subscribe button on YouTube, whatever platform you're on. Follow Jessica. Follow me. You can find Jessica at jessicacanty.com. Jessica, any closing remarks before we shut out today?
It's hard work, but you can do it. You can do it.
That's so good. That's so good. That's so good. So good, and it's so true. Mm-hmm. So good, and it's so true. It's possible. You got 2 people in front of you that are not perfect, but there's a lot that we've been able to accomplish that has been because we simply tried to get it right. All right, so you can find Jessica there at jessicacanty.com. All of your social media is on the website too, right?
Absolutely.
All right. There's my website. You can go and find me there, ChristopherJHarris.com or diversechurchjobs.com, either one of those platforms. This is Callings and Careers. Our goal is to help you discover your calling and develop in your career. So give us a follow, connect with us, plug in with us, and we'll see y'all the next time. Peace.